Oh, man, we used the whole song for the opening.
A lot going on.
Everybody slowed down a little bit, too, because of this weather. It's crazy time. So if you didn't hear Linda Perry's newscast, I do encourage you to go on WBAI.org and listen to that newscast. She did an amazing job talking about what happened in the Eric Garner case. We spoke about it yesterday. King, could you give, from your viewpoint as a lawyer, a breakdown to the people who, if they're just turning in on what happened?
Yeah, I'd say as a political lawyer, this is no surprise. The Justice Department prosecutes maybe 1/10 of 1% of all of these cases that go on. And it's unfortunate because the families put a lot of hope into this and they really think something's going to happen. And more often than not, it doesn't. And when they announced last night that the night before last that the meeting was going to be the day before the deadline, I didn't want to say anything, but I knew it was going to be bad news.
Do you think that the meeting, having it the day before the deadline, you mean the meeting with the family?
Yeah.
Do you think
DOJ and the family.
Do you think the family knew already, or did they give them false hope? What do you think happened in that meeting? I mean, you have to speculate because we don't have them on the air with us, obviously.
I remember meeting with Nicole Bell, Sean Bell's fiance and widow, going over there right after they had come out of that meeting, and she was completely in tears, devastated. And I have a feeling that she probably knew already that it was most likely to happen. I'm sure the lawyers and the activists prepared her. But, this is a life, and you just keep hanging on that one thread that this will maybe be the time that it happens.
It does seem like, so if you're just joining us and you're, whether you're not listening from the New York area, Eric Garner was the man who was murdered by a police officer.
July 17th in 2014.
Over selling
Daniel
loose cigarettes. He was the man who kicked off or helped kick off, spark the Black Lives Matter movement. And just yesterday, the police officer who put him in an illegal chokehold and then stood there and watched as he said, I can't breathe, and then didn't get any medical attention and then subsequently died from that, was not found guilty in any civil charges. Is that right?
Well, there's
criminal.
Yeah,
and civil.
there's administrative hearing going on now where the worst that can happen is that he could get
some vacation days taken off of his. Yeah, so it's really hard. It's really hard to be on anyone's side but the defendant. I can't see how people can defend this. I mean.
And as I said, they have a notorious record, and their record is so bad that they don't even collect any data on the number of people who are shot by police. And they've had a voluntary program where some people could send information in some states, but it's not formally collected in any way. And so there are no surprises here.
So can we pressure Mayor de Blasio to put pressure on O'Neill to fire the officer? Because that's one thing we could do.
Well, yeah, the demonstrations are ongoing.
Yes,
and
they are.
Hopefully that'll force the city's hand.
I wonder if we have some demonstrations to announce for folks today. Yes, we do. So there's a march and rally today, and I'm sure that march and rally is going to take on a different tone given what we know now. Wednesday, that's today, at 6 p.m. At the Staten Island Ferry St. George Terminal, so on the Staten Island side. 6 p.m., the Garner family and the legacy that Eric Garner left, that's a group, legacy that Eric Garner left behind, continue to fight for justice, demanding justice for Eric Garner. Join racial justice advocates as they remember their lives and continue their fight. Participants in the action will be meeting at 6 o'clock at the Staten Island side of the ferry. Following a brief rally will be a march to the site of Eric Garner's death, and folks will be paying their respects to the man whose murder, as we said, helped ignite the Black Lives Matter movement. We'll be covering that, of course, as best we can here on WBAI, and we'll be talking about it hopefully in the morning. Are you going to go?
I'm really thinking about it.
You better go. We need somebody on the ground over there.
I know.
I can't go tonight. You're listening to Waking Up. I'm Julianna Forlano. We have some rather interesting news. Now, King and I discussed that we didn't want to talk about Trump's racist ranting and tweeting and all of that baloney. And that is the news cycle right now, even though today was supposed to be the day that Robert Mueller was going to testify. That's been kicked off until Monday. So we'll be sure to be talking about that all next week. But I do think, his racist tweets certainly grabbed the headlines away from all of the talking that should have been going on around that and this Eric Garner case and everything else that he's trying to undermine. But I think we do have to pick it up and mention it, especially because Congressman Eric Swalwell, remember him? He was running for president. He was the first one to drop out. He was the one on the debate stage who said it was time to pass the torch. He kind of came out of the gate with that youthful vigor and exuberance of his. And I didn't like the idea that he said we have to pass the torch, because I just want the best person for the job to win, not necessarily the youngest person to be passed. But anyway, lots to talk about that. He did us a solid. He went on the floor and he read all of Trump's racist tweets. So now they're in the congressional record, number one. That's important. And let's just listen. It's amazing what he did.
We have an opportunity today to condemn or condone saying immigrants from Mexico are racist is racist. Saying there were good people on both sides of Charlottesville is racist. Calling Africa shithole country is racist.
So
Telling four members of this body to go home is racist. Do you think it's not racist? Do you think it's not racist? Is that what you're saying right now, Mr. Collins?
The gentleman from California is out of order. The gentleman from
Point of order, the gentleman's words are unparliamentary, and I request they be taken down.
That is clearly reprehensible. We actually had 2 interviews that we're going to play finally from we need like 5 hours to go over the Netroots Nation stuff, but we have 2 interviews we're going to play, one with Representative Omar and one with Representative Presley, that our good friend King was able to get when we were at the Netroots Nation conference.
Yeah, our intuition seems to really be on the rise, because we're telling stories and then they're blowing up. So maybe we need to start covering some stuff that we want to see some action taken on.
Exactly. Good idea.
So we had a chance to corral both of them at Netroots Nation, and it fits in because they're talking about another issue of race that is deep-seated and is the cause
Maybe the fact
of all
that they
that's
were
going
talking
on.
about it in such a public venue. I mean, Netroots Nation used to be kind of this secret. Everyone's just kind of bloggers hanging out, and now like presidential candidates are there. So it was the highest attendance at that conference in all the years. I've been going for 10 years, so, and it started before me. It was the highest attendance. So it's a thing now, and they were there talking about reparations. We're going to play those clips after we take a brief break. You're listening to Waking Up on WBAI 99.5 FM, coming to you live from Brooklyn, where it is 78 degrees right now. Already feels like 83, going up to 93. But we have also a flash flood watch in effect from 2 p.m. this afternoon through late tonight. They are thinking about, this is for parts of Northeast New Jersey, our listening area, Southeast New York, that's where we all live. Hudson, Southern Westchester. So they're expecting big thunderstorms this afternoon and this evening. So be prepared for that. We'll be right back. Were off, well, the mics were off. That part of the Swalwell story is, what Trump's surrogates are out there saying, including Kellyanne Conway, who went out and defended Trump, defended his racism, and then she's like, "I'm Italian and I'm Irish. What nationality are you?" And I'm thinking, "Oh no, she's Italian. What a poor showing." And then we've got Pantaleo, who's Italian, and then. Who else is out there right now who's making me ashamed of my heritage? I hope they're all Northern Italian. Let me just say, we can still fight that North and South battle. Oh, God. And then on Twitter, an Italian goes out and says, "Kellyanne Conway, you're being ridiculous. Everyone is from somewhere else." And does a great defense. You know who that was? Anthony Scaramucci. So now... He's not someone to be proud of, from our Italian heritage. He's the mooch. Remember when he was the press person for Trump?
Well, we got to find some other
Me.
Italian role models.
That's
There
it.
you go.
Sacco and Vanzetti and me. Oh boy. Well, we need more news cycle on the left side of Italy. There's so much going on the right over there that. Maybe the media is not just covering it. And here, too. Anyway, we have so much to cover. Presley.
Yeah, so I had a chance to wrangle the two of them, and I basically tried, followed Ayanna Presley around.
He stalked
I stalked
Ayanna
it, yeah.
Presley.
After she had brushed everybody off, they were
Media
outside
stalked.
waiting for the car, and I saw it 2 flights up. I ran down the escalators
You did?
and got out the door.
And those were some big
and
escalators. Those
they
were like the
They-
2-flight ones at a time.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. So we've got her, and then at the end of Representative Omar's appearance on a show, I kind of ambushed her right in front of everybody.
And they're
to
both
ask her-
talking about reparations.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So we can
Because
listen
you
to them
Yeah,
back
here's
to back
Presley
if you want
talking.
to. Presley first from Massachusetts.
Just talk about reparations.
Well, I just think that this country has so much work to do to really make up for the legacy of slavery and the history of slavery. And so I am a proud sponsor of both Sheila Jackson Lee's bill to have a real study on reparations, but also Barbara Lee's bill to have sort of our own Truth and Reconciliation Commission on reparations, just as South Africa did. So that's my belief, and I think that will make us a better and more equal country, and we will finally acknowledge the incredible harms we've done.
Thank you.
Good job. I could feel your arm in her face with the microphone. That's fantastic. And let's hear the Omar piece.
Unique position to speak on the issue of reparations, and the reason is that the issue is important for Americans, but also the issue comes up on the other side of the ocean. Could you give your take on the issue?
I'm not sure. I haven't really been privy to that conversation. It's an interesting one. What I have said is someone who is an African immigrant and not a descendant of folks who have slave ancestry. The lead of this conversation should not be me. And so I am very much eager to support and follow the lead of people like the amazing Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, Barbara Lee, and others.
All right, thank you.
I do wonder how the Bronx is feeling right now about how President Trump said that AOC should go back to her disgusting, horrible, S-hole place and start from there. I mean, she's from the Bronx, right?
Yeah, I don't think the S-hole place where he came from, which is only a mile or two away, is any better.
Exactly. I don't think Scotland wants him back, aren't they? They're like, no, thank you.
I know the Germans don't want them.
No, the Germans don't want him. None of those countries would want Trump. Okay, we're going to open up the phone lines, 212-209-2877. We already see them lighting up, so these must be our regular callers, but we do want to remind you, sometimes our regular callers are the ones who immediately call and want to yell at us about something, but, that's fine, but we prefer civil dialogue. We also are not taking any trolls.
No.
What's a troll?
No, troll free.
Let's do a definition of a troll. Someone who calls and says, "I've been on your side forever. I've been listening forever," and then spouts off a bunch of right-wing talking points. So we're not doing that. This is not about that. This is community radio. Caller, your name and where you're calling from. Oh, they hung up. I guess they were trolls. So they're like, oh,
okay. We took the whole script right out of their mouths.
Caller, you are on the air. Your name and where you're calling from. Hello? And caller, you are on the air. Your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, Hotep.
Hi.
Greetings to the beloved family. This is Mayat from the cave.
Hi.
Yeah, listen, a suggestion. I would love it if, because I love to listen to callers, and BAI used to do so much more of it. So maybe a few days a month.
Yeah, Nayat, no, I hear what you're about to say, that you want more callers. We just got packed in with news over the course of the last couple of days, especially coming out of that conference where we were able to get live people. And I apologize for the cutoff there. We're having some slight technical issue. Didn't mean to be rude on you there, but we will try to take calls as much. This show tries to take calls as much as we possibly can. So let's try to take another one before we have to head into the break. Oh, here we go. Hold on a second. You're listening to WBAI 99.5 FM, New York City. I'm Julianna Forlano in the studio. With me is King Downing, Alana Levinson, Michael Haskins. Caller, you are on the line. Your name and where you're calling from. Caller, you're on the line. Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. What's your name?
My name's Doug. I'm in Brooklyn.
Hey, Doug. Thanks for the call. What would you like to say?
Oh, Juliana, I'm surprised I got through so fast. But you know what? I with this Eric Gardner thing, the thing that I never hear mentioned is that this Eric Gardner was like a overweight, unhealthy man, and I can't believe that it wasn't so obvious to these police officers. And not only that this is over loose cigarettes. Jesus.
I know.
People, they're so.
It just comes down to racism. They don't care that he was overweight and unhealthy. Clearly, that didn't cross their mind, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I know there's something wrong with this picture. They're just so. I'm just thinking to myself, are these people so afraid? These policemen so afraid that they have to tackle this big guy?
I don't know. That's a good question. Thanks for the call, Doug. I appreciate it. Thoughts, King? You want to respond?
They have shot 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds. There's this fear of the super predator and all the things that happened around the Central Park Five that creates this mindset.
Thanks, Trump.
Of fear, and he's the latest.
You're listening to WBAI, Waking Up with WBAI. We'll take one more caller before we have to go to our break. Caller, you are on the air. Your name and where you're calling from.
Andre from Jersey City.
Hi, Andre. Thanks for the call. What would you like to say?
I had just a comment. It's more kind of a question. I hear people calling in all the time, and I listen to your show every morning. It's a great show, by the way.
Thank you. And thanks for listening.
You're welcome. No problem. I mean, I've been listening since the days of Talk Back with Hugh Hamilton. So.
Oh, that's great. The fund drive is coming up. We're going to ask you for your support and financial.
I'm a buddy.
Oh, yay, my friend. Okay. When we have that party, we'll meet you in person. Okay, the comment you want to make.
Yeah, so I hear people calling in all the time and saying, Trump is a racist, this thing's a racist, and cops who don't get held accountable. But I think it's way past time to stop talking and way time now to get stuff done. There needs to be action behind demonstrations. Demonstrations are great to let people know, but there needs to be action behind it.
You mean the Swalwell things? Eric Swalwell went on the floor and made sure everyone knew he was racist, called names, etc.
I mean, that's not a revelation. Everyone knows that.
Right.
I mean, if you're from New York, you know that already.
But he didn't put forward some sort of legislation that would do something.
Yeah, it's just you putting it on record, then that's all great. But it's not it's not a revelation about anything. Mm-hmm. This is who this man is. Trump, we know, is a racist. There's plenty of racism and that. Along with him, and we know this already. But people keep doing these things, but there's no or else.
Yeah.
If you want to say to Mayor de Blasio that you want these officers held accountable, there needs to be an or else.
Right. How about or else all people of color are not going to support you in your, next bid for power? He's clearly not going to, even if he's, doesn't win the presidential election, which doesn't look likely at this point, he's still bidding for power.
He likes to say that, his son is black, and that's great, but you're using your son as a pawn, because if it happened to your son, I wonder how long it would take for you to really do some action.
Thank you, Andre. Perfect comment. We really appreciate it. You're listening to Waking Up 99.5 FM. Andre's a buddy. We need you to become a buddy. WBAI is listener sponsored. We do not take any corporate donations. By the way, I tuned in to, well, I'm not going to WNYC call out other stations, but I tuned in to hear what was going on their station yesterday at 6 o'clock. And you know what was going on? Thank you to this corporation, and funding for this program has been brought to you by XYZ, YZ, ABC, DEFG. Funding for our program has been brought to you by Andre from Jersey City, Doug from Brooklyn, Nayat from the cave, as she calls it, so we are really, truly listener sponsored, and we are coming up on our pledge drive starting next week, but we want to get a jump on that. So we are offering people things to become a WBAI buddy. This is just a gift to become a WBAI buddy. That's unusual. Usually the buddy has kind of its own gifts. It's got tote bags and cups and swag, which I think is also fantastic, because you're doing the service of letting people know that WBAI is out there. We are functioning. We are relevant. We are your station, and that's really important. But this time we are also offering you some books that we usually offer as, premiums for kind of a higher price. So we're able to do that between now and Monday, when we have to start the actual straight up pledge drive. And we are asking people to become a WBAI buddy, like Andre said he was, which is someone who gives money at regular intervals. Basically, you promise to give whatever amount you're comfortable with. They do a monthly charge to your credit card, just like if you're just like if you're buying some New York Times subscription, Washington Times, anything like that. And instead of buying something, you are supporting your station, and then you become a member of your station, a voting member. You don't get to vote on what the New York Times does when you buy that subscription. When you're here with us, you get a vote. So become a WBAI buddy in the name of Waking Up. The pledge line is 516-620-3602. And we will give you today
we've got something really special
really
for
special.
you. It's a book called Talking Sky, Ojibwe Constellations as a Reflection of Life on the Land. And so this is in honor of our native peoples here. And they had a completely different set of names for the constellations, and the stories guided their whole society and their philosophy. And so one example, the Big Dipper there is called the Fisher, and the Fisher is what we call the Wolverine. And they knew that as the Wolverine, the Fisher, moved higher in the sky, that it was getting closer to the seasons when there would be plenty of food and plants to grow. And so this is a gift to honor them.
We can't even see the sky from here, so you have to read about it in a book.
And it's by
but it gives you this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's by Carl Gorboy and Ron Morton, and we have autographed
copies for you. And it
talk
kind
about
of,
the Ojibwe people.
For me to read about Native American culture and traditions just really touches me, because it brings us back to kind of how we're supposed to be living before we got off into this overly industrialized revolution, dehumanization that comes with that, and the capitalism. And this is it's just a reminder of how life is still at our heart. That's what's at our heart. So the book is Talking Sky. It's our gift to you if you become a WBAI buddy. Here's the phone number for which you can do that. It's 516-620-3602, 516-620-3602. We know we have a lot of new viewers, new listeners. If you're into that sort of thing, if you're into us wherever you're watching or wherever you're listening, 516-620-3602, completely listener-sponsored. We're taking our musical break, and we'll be back with Guess Who? Randy Bryce is on the show. Do you know who Randy Bryce is? Well, we're going to introduce him to you if you don't, right after this musical break. Thanks for watching and listening. pledges, and I thought, gosh, King is so interesting. I'd like to do a full-on hour-long interview with King so that you can get to know him as a person, outside of what we're doing. Will you do that?
That would probably tongue-tie me. I'm
It'd
usually
be
not
so
tongue-tied.
fun. No, I would be. I can interview you. My job is to make it easy for you to talk.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
What is that? Yes. Is that a yes?
We'll go for it.
Okay.
We'll go
All
for it.
right. All right.
I saw you in action at Netroots Nation. So you're good. I see how you do what you do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So let's do our segment this week in labor history. And this information comes from unionist.com, which I'm not sure if we're allowed to say, but that is where we got the information. In July 14th, 1877, the Great Uprising nationwide railway strike began in Martinsburg, West Virginia, after railroad workers were hit with their second pay cut in a year. In the following days, strike riots spread through 17 states. That's how it starts, in one place, like the teacher strike, and it spreads like wildfire. The next year, federal troops were called out to force an end to the strike.
This week in labor history, July 15th, 1917, some 50,000 lumberjacks strike for an 8-hour day.
Did they win? We don't know.
Stay tuned.
Doesn't say. They didn't win this week in labor history. July 15th, 1959, 500,000 steelworkers began what is to become the 116-day strike that shuttered nearly every steel mill. My grandfather was involved in this in the country. Management wanted to dump contract language limiting its ability to change the number of workers assigned to a task, or to introduce new work rules or machinery that would result in reduced hours or fewer employees. We're talking about mechanization, getting rid of people, and that's when people didn't just see it as inevitable. So we'll see what we can do about that, and we are very happy to have our next guest on. That was This Week in Labor History. Now, it's in our regular labor update, we have a guest who's not only a labor organizer, but was a candidate for public office, and we are going to encourage him to once again become a candidate for public office if he is willing. Randy Bryce joined the race for Wisconsin's 1st congressional district because he knew firsthand how working people have struggled, and he wanted to ensure that the middle class is represented in D.C. Again, Randy Bryce is a U.S. Army veteran, a cancer survivor, a union iron worker, and was a congressional candidate. After the November election, he founded Iron PAC with a purpose to help elect working class people to run for office. Randy, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Well, thanks for having me with you. Good morning.
I've been following what you've been doing since you started to run, and we met somewhere at a progressive thing here in New York City when you came out one time, and it was just wonderful. First of all, it's really nice to see people who look exactly like my own family, talk like my family, and work in iron. I come from on one side of my family, we have a long history of people working in the steel mills. On the other side, it's first generation immigration. So I am very happy that you are on the scene. Can you talk about what it means for regular people and people who are involved in labor to be running for office?
Well, we know what it's like struggling ourselves to live paycheck to paycheck often. And there's even a panel at Netroots was like how to get the working class vote. And
how about coming from the working class?
Right.
How about that?
Well,
how about being a member of the working class?
Exactly. That's one way to ensure that people understand, that are making decisions on our behalf. It presents a lot of different challenges, which is why we started up Iron PAC. For one, groups like the DCCC are looking for self-funders, people that have money, and very frequently working class people don't have access to that. So there are some groups.
Did you find that the unions got behind you just because all of your policies were probably going to be for the working class with financial support when you were running?
Yes, and I dressed just like a normal working guy. My boots were frequently on, and people that know me would introduce me, and they would make a statement. They're like, "This, he's not just dressing up. This is what he wears every day to work as an iron worker." And that's one of the things that we felt was really important to do was just be authentic. And get pointed to a room full of people, and it was like,
just be yourself.
I really
And
think that's what
I
happened
did.
with AOC, right? Because she just was herself, and she continues to be herself, and she's shocking everyone by being herself and not just kind of being stuck in the rhetoric that they obviously force on you.
Right. And I think that's one of the things, people see that, and they see that authenticity, in addition to her working her butt off, getting elected.
When you were running, the right wing came after you like a flock of mosquitoes when you walk out of your apartment in New York City, which is happening a lot today. They were after you from the get-go.
Oh, yeah.
Major fear that Labor's gonna actually get some power.
Right, and after we chased Paul Ryan away, his super PAC, they spent more against me than I think just about any place else. They spent right around $7 million in hit pieces.
What were the kind of things that you were running on that you would imagine that other people from Labor who were running for office would run on? What kind of campaigns?
Well, for one, we had the first organized union campaign, unionized workers. And other things were, like we were against right to work. We were in favor.
Right to work means if it's not in the news cycle as much now, but
okay, it's an ALEC bill that was pushed through several states some time ago. And Wisconsin, we were under attack quite a bit.
Scott Walker, yeah.
One of the reasons I got so involved politically. But the ability to organize into a union, $15 minimum wage. Was also new infrastructure. Rebuilding that was something important, and not the privatized version either. It's the good one that we don't sell it to somebody else and use our money to pay to fix it.
Randy, the environment is obviously an enormous issue, and Labor is coming down on some separate sides because I think there's obviously a concern about job loss and job security if we do what the AOC is asking us to do in terms of the Green New Deal. How would a Labor candidate, when we're looking at candidates who are from organized labor, how could we adjudicate the problem around needing to protect the environment and working on climate change?
Well, when we're talking Green New Deal, it doesn't mean that we can't have good paying jobs as a result of that. Those jobs unions need to claim as our own work, and we need to organize, train our members to do that kind of work. Installing solar panels, wind turbines, those are all jobs. So
yeah, you can't do that in China. You need someone on your actual roof in Westchester, wherever you live, to hammer them up there or whatever they do.
And these are good paying jobs, especially union jobs. And oftentimes you hear people say, "Well, we're going to lose fossil fuel industry jobs."
That's the point.
Right.
But we do need to take care of people who are working there.
Absolutely, which is why it makes perfect sense to me to train people into green sustainable energy jobs. It's that's what we do. We work on one kind of building in the building trades, and they get sent to a different kind, and they're not the same. So the same thing goes for sustainable green energy sources. If we train our members to do it, and we're the ones doing that work, then we're not going to have to worry about non-union contractors moving in and doing this work.
Randy, can you talk about what it was like to run as an iron worker in Wisconsin for the Democratic Party? Is there a division along party lines? How do you bridge those gaps? Did you have any Republican support? Did you have pushback from the Democratic Party, which, has fallen into corporate hands as opposed to being, more so the party of labor? What was that? What was your experience there?
Well, we had a lot of help from progressive organizations that do help candidates run. The DCCC did endorse our race, and I'm pretty sure that was because we were successful raising money, which is very important to them. But as far as other political divides, we were able to bring together, it was Hillary and Bernie people, and we had both of them helping us out. We knew that in order to take somebody like the Speaker of the House down, we're going to need help from everywhere. So we didn't turn anybody down. We had some Republicans also that hopped on board that did vote for Donald Trump in the past. And
Nice.
I'm pretty sure that in 2020, Wisconsin's going to elect the Democratic president.
How come you didn't run for president? Everybody else is running for president. You should have run for president. We don't have a labor guy up there. For
No,
real.
we don't have somebody from
Or lady.
Wisconsin either. I thought we were gonna have somebody from a candidate from every state. And I was waiting for
50
somebody else to
candidates. We got de Blasio. Oh,
Hey, Randy, anybody whose campaign website also includes an endorsement from his ex-wife is my kind of guy.
Yes.
Okay. So,
yeah, she's great. We get along fantastically.
I think
So,
I'd get along better with my husband if we
if you ran for Congress.
Yeah, no, I mean everyone should have two different houses.
So what I really wanted to
Just
ask
kidding, I
you,
love
I'm
you.
not sure what the first congressional district covers, but almost all elections can be swayed by by appealing to and winning the hearts of and getting the votes of whatever people of color are in your area. It's been to them to get your vote.
Racine does have a
4 black guys.
unique,
No,
diverse.
sorry, I'm just kidding.
We do have diverse a diverse city in Racine, African American and Latino populations. We were able to get 80% of the African American community to show up and vote, and we did that on things, prison reform. Making sure that we had a criminal justice system that was, one criminal justice system that's good for everybody. Racine has a distinction, not a good one, of being the third worst place in the United States to be if you're African American. So we paid a lot of attention to that.
It's called
community.
Racine. Isn't there something about that? Like obscene.
And it used to be a place people flocked to from the South, and now those jobs, manufacturing jobs, have dried up and gone. And we still have a community. It's also either number 1 or number 2 as far as unemployment in the entire state. So we have a lot of issues, and listening to people in that community was extremely important. And the Latino community, we have ICE
knocking down your
roaming
doors.
the streets too. That's in Racine, it's southeastern Wisconsin, next to Lake Michigan. It's not a hotbed of.
It's
of
not Sunset
criminal
Park,
activity.
is what you're. Well, that's not a hotbed of criminal activity either, but you would expect it in a city, like a big city on the East Coast, more so than cheese country.
So it was doing a lot of listening and committing to doing things that made our society more just, and that's what people cared about.
So, Randy, you're running Iron Pack, or you're part of Iron Pack. Let's tell the people what it is, and in addition, I have a question about Elizabeth Warren. She is from a working class background. How come people don't embrace her as that? They're smearing her in this sort of elite liberal way. What's wrong with being from a working class background, having been in the working class as a teacher for years, and then going back to school and getting a law degree and now running for president? Why is that not important?
I have no idea. I mean, that's what I'm looking for in Canada. So you had all these strikes, wildcat strikes throughout the country, led by teachers, and I'm thinking, if they're willing to put it all on the line for their union members and their students, they're going to make a good leader, and they should consider, we have leaders there, they should consider running for office.
Well, Elizabeth Warren is running for office. She was a special education teacher, which helps her explain her platform.
Right.
She's got complicated plans, and she can break them down so that everyone can understand, which is wonderful.
Yeah, I think she's terrific. She's up towards the top of my list when it comes to presidential candidates. And why people would slam her, I really couldn't say.
Let's talk about Iron Pack, because we're at we have like 1 more minute. I want to make sure people know what's going on and where they can get more info.
Okay. Well, we started Iron Pack after our campaign, and the whole time our campaign was going, we told people that what we're doing, it's a movement. It's not just a campaign. And this is a continuation of that, where we're going to help working class people get their start, help introduce them to other people that can be helpful to, and help get them some seed money to get their campaign started.
That's great, Randy. Where can folks find out more about this?
Iron Pack. It's www.ironpac.org.
IRONPAC.org. Randy Bryce, thank you so much for being with us. We hope you will join us again on issues of labor, and I wish you luck with anything that you're doing, and I thank you for what you've done so far.
Would love to. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. You're listening to Waking Up. I'm Julianna Forlano here on WBAI. Coming at you live from 388 Atlantic. Pretty soon we're going to have Jarrett Murphy on from Max and Murphy to talk about what is happening on their local news program tonight. But for now, you're here with Julianna. By the way, you can become a WBAI buddy in the name of Waking Up. And if you do it today, you will get the book that King picked out for you, which is fantastic. For you.
You, right
you,
there.
You, Bronx.
You listening.
You listening. You. How's the toast? How's the drive? We know where you are. You know where we are. It's a 83. It feels like 83 degrees out right now. It is 10 minutes to the top of the hour, going up to 93 with a flash flood watch in effect. I would suggest if you want to be happy, don't look at the Weather Channel app because pretty much they're basically just telling you about all the weather problems that we're having. And one of the things they showed was like a moose laying down in a big pool of melted glacier water today. So they're having a heat wave in Alaska. You know, climate chaos is happening when Alaska has hotter weather than New York City on occasional days. But right now, Jarrett Murphy's on the line with us. Jarrett, thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
What's going to be on Max and Murphy tonight at 5 p.m. on WBAI?
Well, we'll be talking to Tyler Nims, who's the executive director of the Littman Commission, which is the body that basically created the framework for the move to close Rikers Island. He'll be updating us on where the mayor's borough jails plan stands and what he thinks of some of the critiques of it. And then we'll also be hearing from John Raskin, who is the outgoing head of the Writers Alliance. This is the advocacy group that, along with many others, created a lot of the grassroots organizing around trying to improve subways and buses, creating some of the push for congestion pricing, the subway action plan, some of the other steps that, while halting and incomplete, have started to move the city toward getting a handle on improving its transit system.
Fantastic. 5 p.m. here live on WBAI or WBAI.org, or you can find it in the archives at WBAI.org. Thanks for joining us, Jared. I hope you have a great show.
Thank you. Get that moose of lemonade.
I know that.
Or a stiff drink.
I'm telling you. It was in someone's backyard. Imagine waking up, looking out, and there's a moose there in your on your fire escape, because that's what we have for backyards here in New York City. Okay, we have a minute or two left in the show, maybe 5, if you want to call in and get your voice heard online. In that time, 212-209-2877, 212-209-2877. Feel free to call in and discuss any of the things that we've been talking about today. And just to remind you that tonight at 6 o'clock on the St. George terminal side of the Staten Island Ferry, starting at the ferry terminal, there is going to be a rally and basically a remembrance and a march over to where Eric Garner was killed by Daniel Pantaleo using an illegal chokehold. Caller, you are on the line. Your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, Jamie from New York. I want to urge everyone to come out to that rally, but also as referred to Kamala Harris, who you spoke about for a few days.
Yes.
One issue that was not brought up is her position on Israel. And I think the only one that has been best is Bernie, and Warren has joined with him occasionally. But that's very important. It's not just about being a prosecutor.
Jenny,
Thank you.
That's a great point. Clearly, there's going to be so much more to talk about as this thing unfolds. I appreciate that comment, and we'll try to get that discussion on the air for you. Caller, you are on the line. Your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Steve. I'm calling from Manhattan.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for the call. What would you like to say?
Well, by the standards that Trump applied in telling these 4 young women to go back where they came from, he's projecting his own history. His grandfather came to this country as a criminal out of Germany. He was deported from Germany because he was a draft dodger when he tried to return there. And so, by our standards, he should be exported, and his whole family.
Well,
And
that
his
would be
father
great,
was-
regardless. I don't want to set that standard because I don't want to get rid of the rest of the people. But if we could just apply it to him.
That's right. If he applies it to other people, it should be applied to him. And he should be thrown out of the country. Of course, he'd be stateless because Germany won't take him back because they didn't take his grandfather back.
Right.
But that would be the standard. And so it's important to just say, whatever standards are applied ought to be applied to the people who apply them as well.
Exactly. Thanks for the call, Steve. Let's see if we can get another call on the line. Caller, you are on the air on WBAI's Waking Up with Julianna and King right next to me.
Yes,
Your
yes.
name and where you're calling from.
Hello?
Hi. You must have missed that whole intro. Your name and where you're calling from. You're on the air.
My name is Bob.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for the call.
And I'm a environmental volunteer for over, 8-9 years.
Oh, great.
With a few different groups. Okay, I'm going to turn off the radio.
Yeah, do that. Anyone who's waiting, by the way, just so we can kind of get as many calls on the air as possible that we have time for, just turn your radios down now.
Okay, well, I'm calling about somebody. I noticed that a couple of people that I voted for, and I noticed that it seems to be some kind of a liberal thing, this thing about congestion pricing. I noticed somebody said, oh, yeah, like it's great. Okay.
Who said that?
Totally, I don't know, somebody said it. Anyway, I'm hearing for people that live out of New York that don't have too much money, that may have to come here for whatever reason, $12 is excessive. That's number one. Number
Absolutely.
two, I'm a driver.
Hour. It's an hour of work for some people.
Yeah, and I have to travel to New Jersey sometimes just for pleasure. Because I don't want to go to the beach, but I'm in Manhattan, so I mean, I don't know what the deal is with that.
Well, Bob, thanks a lot. We're going to have to talk about this on another day because we didn't really discuss that, and there's so many in London. I don't know. We'll see, but I do think it is a burden on people who are working in our town.
Yeah, Dr. Wolf would call that a regressive tax because it punishes the people with the least amount of money. So we should call it digestion pricing.
They eat the poor.
Right.
Yeah. You've been listening to Waking Up. Don't forget to become a WBAI buddy at 516-620-3602. The book you would get today as just a gift at any level is Talking Sky, Ojibwe Constellations as a Reflection of Life on the Land. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking repo rights. We have Jamia Wilson from Feminist Press joining us. She is one of my favorite guests, although they're all kind of my favorite. Thanks a lot for listening. We'll catch you tomorrow.